Alan Wake 2. I want to hear about this because you briefly showed this to me while I was there because, I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but also like this game's been out for like a month.
But I've got so many spoilers for you now.
Holy crap, it has been out for a month. Jesus Christ.
Is it a month?
Yeah, because it was like it was like a week after Spider-Man.
Sure. Let me tell you.
So this game looks insane. I watched you play it on PS5, so it doesn't have all of the fancy
all the bells and whistles,
ray tracing stuff. Yeah, but I mean, the lighting, oh my God.
It is
magicians.
Actual magicians. Yeah. It is a visual masterpiece. And it's amazing because I do wonder, how's Remedy getting this so right? I mean, their last game was Control, and Control, I think today is still a showpiece for what RTX can do.
Absolutely,
I have to see what this game looks like on PC because, good God,
me too.
Really
so
good on
tempted.
PS5. And it's really good. It's shocker. Like, so I'm about, I'd say I'm about 7 hours in. And I say 7 hours, but with the disclaimer that I've really taken my time. I'm exploring every single corner of whatever area I'm in. It is just so good. The Remedy are just masters at just telling stories, I guess. And, more over and above that, I just think the atmosphere here, the survival horror, it is way more survival horror than even I thought it would be. Because like I played Alan Wake 1 years after the fact and I thought, it's tense, but it didn't strike me as
it's more
like,
an action game.
It feels like it starts off like, there's all these shadows and you figure out and you get over it. You're like, yeah, okay, cool. Like I know I've got to point my flashlight at them. It's more action than horror. This game though, I mean the only, and I've heard people say like, it's not that scary. Like I'm not, when I say scary, I'm not talking, the conventional like, oh no, there's blood and gore and then, there's just surprise monsters that jump out of nowhere. It's just how they play with your expectations of you'll just be walking and then something will flash and it'll just like give you a fright. It's like, it's completely unexpected. Like the biggest compliment I can give it is that Lenska says she's never seen me jump more in a game. And it's more like it's me just getting like unexpected jolts of surprise. I'm like, oh shit.
Yes.
Even the way some of the enemies move, like I'm still early in the game. I think it's like 16 to 20 hours. So I'm not even halfway. And the shadow figures I thought, it's this thing of like I explained to you, maybe audio listeners won't see it, but if you're looking on camera now, like there's a shadow figure there, right? And it walks towards you, but you're not sure if it's just a shadow or if it's going to be an actual enemy. Okay, and there are times.
So they don't always manifest.
No, they don't always manifest. And there are times in the game when there are like 7 of them, for example, and they're all walking. Like there is actual footage here you'll see shortly where there's a whole group of them walking towards me, and it's just you don't know who's going to actually attack. And then when it happens, that shadow figure like literally almost teleports towards you, and it surprises you. Like, oh my God! Like I didn't expect it. So on that level, it is way more, scary than I thought it would be. Way more surprising. And also, for lack of a better comparison, I didn't expect it to remind me so much of Resident Evil. Like, I think Remedy have definitely taken inspiration from the Resident Evil remakes from, 2 onward, and including this year's Resident Evil 4. It just feels that in terms of ammo management and HUD and stuff, it feels like there's a lot of inspiration taken from those games, which is a good thing.
I've heard the inventory management and stuff like that is very Resident Evil 4 inspired.
That quick select bar is like identical. It's a thing, if you get your weapon, you can say, I wanted like which part of the directional pad I wanted, up, down, left, right. And you can do it with everything, with healing items, utility items. And like, I think you're going to take inspiration from another survival horror franchise like Resident Evil is
take it from the best.
Take it from the best.
Yeah.
And Alan Wake 1 wasn't that. Like, I don't remember it being that. So
it definitely wasn't. Yeah.
They've elevated it here, the survival horror very well here. And then in terms of the actual story, I know Remedy say, I've seen, you don't have to have played Alan Wake 1 to understand what's happening. Nor Control, but I'm like, if you've played both, shit, it'll do you such a service because there'll be things happening and you can go like, oh yes, like that's from that game. Like
I think especially like Alan Wake 1.
Alan Wake
you
1
won't
is
know
like
why.
mandatory. I think you can miss
Yeah.
Control and get away with it, but having played Control, I'm like, oh, like these worlds, they exist in the same universe. It's very cool to see the references and then, the little nods to each other. And like, again, I haven't finished the game. I don't know to what extent they blow it out of like, I don't know, do I see Jesse Faden, for example? I don't know. Do they talk about the Bureau of Control explicitly? I don't know, but I've seen little nods and winks. I'm like, oh shit, like that's cool. And then if you've never played Alan Wake 1, I'm like, I don't know how the story will make sense to you. Like, I guess, the basis is, okay, Alan Wake's gone missing. And as a newcomer, you're like, who the hell is Alan Wake? And you'll learn as you play.
Yeah.
But you and I have played, like, oh no, he's stuck in the dark place. It's like this segment you're
and
seeing
like you
now.
have context as to why he's there.
Yeah, this segment you're seeing now, like, oh, he's in the dark place. Like, cool, I understand why he's here.
Yes.
But yeah, it's...
And what he's been doing trying to escape,
Yeah, but I can... All I can say is that after 7 hours, I've got nothing but praise for this game. Like, I'm completely hooked. And the only reason I haven't finished it is because I've been hosting you. And I've been busy this week with other stuff.
I'm so sorry.
But I'm very, very, very excited to keep playing it. Yeah,
so isn't it nuts that this is like Remedy's first survival horror? And they've nailed it.
They've nailed it so well. And again, like, do they keep it for the full duration? I don't know. I don't know what other enemies await for me, but like, so this is a good example. Sorry, audio listeners, you're getting cheated here. Look how there are tons of shadow figures.
I just saw you do something that you showed me when I was there. It's like he's got a device. Oh my God.
You see, like how it just comes at you.
He's got a device that can like, so this is Alan. He can like suck in light. But then that in turn like adds light somewhere else or something. Like you
basically
you
capture
took a light
and
then
the
the sirens on the car came on. So
it's really good. I mean, they know what they're doing. Even so, for those of you who don't know, it's Alan Wake 2, but you have another protagonist in the form of Saga, who basically the story is balanced between you playing her story and Alan's story. And then I have reached a point now where you get to choose whose story you progressing.
Okay, nice.
I completely forgot what point I was getting at. Oh, the getting the light thing. It's just a gameplay mechanic of like, you can take light and then put it somewhere else because it changes the dark place in certain ways. It's just, I can't even talk about how the story functions, because even that, it's like, in the dark place, Alan's trying to obviously get out, but the dark place manifests what he writes. So there are parts in the game where he discovers like a plot point or something, and you can activate that plot point in a scene, and it will change the scene and help you progress or give you context for something or give you a clue for where to go. It is very clever.
This is essentially what they were saying. I know American Nightmare, which was like an expansion to Alan Wake, was the idea was that was one of Alan's attempts to write himself out of the dark place.
Yeah.
So he's trying to like narrate himself out there, and that was one manifestation of that attempt, which didn't work. So it's cool now that you have more control over that. So technically Alan has written all of these things, and you're just choosing what to enact in the world to bring that into like fruition type of thing. That's pretty rad.
So yeah, he's got that. And then on Saga's side, like for context on her, who she is, she's an FBI agent investigating, murders that have happened in
with Sam Lake.
With good pal Sam Lake, Casey Jones.
Sam Lake just joined for the journey.
But even what they do with her, it's a thing of at any point, so when you're playing as Alan, at any point you can hit like, it doesn't pause the game, first of all, but you can enter like the writer's room, and you've got a board with all the plot points and how they're stitched together, whatever. On Saga's side, she's got like an investigation board. And even that, it's so clever how they've done it of you investigating this thing happening in Bright Falls, whatever. And anytime you find a clue, it's like literally given to you, like, here's the clue. You need to put it on the board. And it just helps, like, for someone like me, it just really helps me keep the story together. Like following, what is happening over here? Oh, this is a suspect. This is how it happened. Because I'm physically now having to place the thing on the board, and it's just a very clever way.
Do you have to connect the lines between clues and be like, okay, this relates to that?
So for example, you have multiple cases in like a cabinet that you can pull out and put on the wall. I know it sounds weird when I explain it, but when you play the game, it makes complete sense.
I've heard people talking about like this being her mind palace.
It's her mind, it's her mind palace. It's where she like steps away from reality to investigate cases.
Yeah.
But at any point you have 3 questions, like, where did this, thumb sucking this, but like, where did this cult start? What is their objective? What is their community like, for example? And I could I could find like a cabin tucked away in the wood, and then it'll pop up as a clue, and then I have to put it on one of those questions like, what is their community like? I'll put it on there, and it'll be like, then it'll draw the line for me, go like, like they live in the woods, for example. And then over time, you start to see these walls fill out, like how these strings connect, just like in the movies, how people solve crimes.
The red string.
The red string. And it's just, they could have completely automated that or not had it, but the fact that I'm manually doing it and like solving the case, I think just sells this more as like a mystery that I'm solving. It's just very cool.
Makes you feel like more of a detective, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's one of Remedy's strong points, is they're just very good at telling stories in unique ways, and that to me is like a very smart way of incorporating. Like you're playing it's a survival horror, but there's a mystery here, and you solving it. And like it puts you in control of, like, even though they're spoon feeding it, you're still solving it. You're putting the pieces together, and I really like that.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I've just got nothing but praise for this game. And like again, I've played 7 hours. Will it lose its charm after 10 hours? I don't know. Like I'm thoroughly enjoying it thus far. So yeah,
cool. Can see why it's high on Game of the Year recommended. Oh, it's part of the Game Awards Game of the Year nominees.
It's a front runner, and I completely get it. It's a work of art, honestly. Real good.
Sounds great.
Sam Lake makes me laugh. What a guy!
Seems like such a cool guy. You met him at Gamescom without even knowing who he was.
No, I knew who he was. But it is
because you saw Quantum Break there, if I'm not mistaken.
I still have a Remedy shirt from Gamescom. No, it was more. I was more amazed by how low key it was. Because I think this is before Control. Remedy, I mean, they're not nobodies, but back then they were like even.
They weren't at the scale they are now. Yeah,
it's like, it's the Max Payne people. They're working on.
Yes. Especially back then when they were showing off Quantum Break, I was like, oh, these guys made Max Payne.
They made Max Payne. So when I saw Quantum Break, it wasn't like this main stage. It was literally like a quiet little side room at Gamescom, and you walk in and there's Sam Lake there. It's like, oh.
You're like, it's Max Payne.
That's the dude who played Max Payne. I was like, that's cool. Now I'm like, man, now I really know who Sam Lake is. Like they've done such good things, and like I have such respect for that studio.
He's the sort of guy that, like, we've got these auteurs in gaming, these figures who like transcend the studios that they work at, which is sometimes good or bad. In the case of Hideo Kojima, I think it's very bad because everyone attributes like Metal Gear Solid as its entirety to him.
Of course,
and that could not be further. It could not be further from the truth. For there are multiple reports out there who say he was very hands off. So there's that, and then there's like Sam Lake, who is becoming this sort of figure, but at the same time, I don't think everyone looks at Sam Lake and goes, "Oh, that's the guy who made Alan Wake." It's like no, Sam Lake wrote Alan Wake. Like people understand that he is a writer, and a director, and that other people do everything else, which is cool.
It is interesting because I 100% see him on the same level of Kojima, where like I know Kojima is full of bullshit, don't get me wrong, but I still love Kojima for his bullshit.
100%. I love Kojima, but
I know, but it's when you can't be like he single-handedly made like these. No. Where Sam Lake, I see him more as like he's the face of Remedy, but he's at no point do I go like, wow, Sam Lake single-handedly pulled this off. Like it was because of him
every
Control
decision
turned
was
out
his.
the way it did, and I'm like, no, he's just the face of that studio, and like, I love that studio. I think he's a great person to have as the face of your studio.
I think that's also just the difference between, I guess when Kojima was at Konami, he's still at a Japanese company, and they like to keep things very quiet about like internal, the internal makeup of a team or whatever. It was very strange that he was kind of like front and center for a whole company.
Yeah.
Whereas in Europe, that's not the case. Like you see like the technical and gameplay directors of Remedy at least talking on Twitter all the time, and Sam like retweeting them and them talking about those aspects of the game in the same way that Naughty Dog does that, where it's like you've got Neil Druckmann, but you see a lot of the directors of the other games and a lot of the art directors talking on Twitter, so it's not just, although to a degree I think a lot of people attribute The Last of Us to just Neil Druckmann, which is also like insane, but yeah. Anyway,
what do you mean? He wrote it, animated it, programmed it, all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Naughty Dog Jesus. Yeah.
Can we call Sam like
Yoked
he just needs a
Naughty Dog
beard
Jesus,
and he can be Remedy Jesus.
Oh my goodness. And long hair. My
Long
God.
hair. Wait, I can't wait for you to play. I don't know. There's so much.
I'm very excited to play it. Like I know I'm going to enjoy it.
There are also just moments that are like, I think one takeaway I want everyone listening or watching from this episode to take is like, you can see this game was like, and I know it sounds pretentious saying it's handcrafted. Every game's handcrafted, but this is like, you can see the attention to detail to like every beat. I mean, like for example, walking into a diner and having a radio station play, and there's like a whole segment that plays. It's written with such like care, and often there are times when it's like actually humorous, which is, you can see they're balancing this, it's a survival horror game, but like we're going to balance it with some light-hearted moments before we make you shit your pants. It's just,
I think Alan Wake was full of that as well. Like when you were walking around Bright Falls and stuff like that, you got that sense. So I'm glad that that's been retained yet, and it's not just like overbearing horror 100% of the time.
No, I've laughed very hard at this game, which surprised me even. It's like, wow, that is.
I'm
hilarious.
super keen. I've loved Remedy for a long time. I was one of the few apologists for Quantum Break. I thought Quantum Break fucking ruled. I gave that game a 9, and that is not how that game shook out eventually. So I'm very happy Remedy's where they're at now, and I loved Control. Control was like one of my favorite games of that year. So I'm very keen to get stuck into this.
Yeah.